guys, it's Kevin again, and in this time we're reviewing to the Blacklist Season 1, Episode 9, Anslo Garric, Part 1. Yes, this is Part 1 of the big two-part episode, which we all heard was really intense, and I knew it was going to be intense because this episode was actually viewer discretion. They said viewer discretion advised, and I was really happy about that because this episode definitely paid off. It was a really intense episode, and that cliffhanger, oh my gosh, it's really huge, and I cannot wait to see what's going to happen next week. But let's just get to the episode. So basically, the episode starts off, it seems like it's going to be a typical episode. You know, Red's in Germany, he's drinking with a bunch of people, having a great time, but someone arrives, and Red goes and gives him a hug, and it's this man named Donald. And Red says that Donald has to walk a terrible tightrope every day. Describing how stressful his job is, Donald tells Red that she needs him, and that he has a plane for him, But Red says his jet is faster and leaves. So that was definitely interesting, like, what's kind of going on here. I didn't know what's going on. But then you see Liz with Tom, and Liz can't believe that her father is gone now. And Tom is trying to comfort her. Tom walks off to leave Liz alone for a bit. She's looking through boxes and finds pictures of her and her father. She looks at the pictures and puts them back in the box. Then takes out a plush bunny and has a flashback of the bunny being burnt along with the doll in child's room. And she begins to cry more. And it cuts to Ressler, who's brought a man in. Harold tells everyone to leave. This guy, Harold. They don't really know what Harold wants to do, but he tells everybody to leave, basically. And, Harold and Malik talk to what's going down with Red. That there's a price on his head, and Red doesn't seem to be too worried about the intel. He says that it's all crap and that instead they're going to attack the facility they work in. And I actually thought, I was like, Red, just shut up. They're coming after you. You're not coming after them. They're coming after you. And that's exactly what happened. And basically, Red goes on talking, he starts talking about Garrett and what he's done. He's arguing with Malik and the others. Liz is walking into Felicity. A garbage truck comes near the Felicity and parks outside of it. Red talks about Garrett's heavily armed and greatly skilled mercenaries and how Garrett is bulletproof in a sense because he put a bullet in his head, and Garrett still lives. And the mercenaries are invading the facility. They're cutting the power to it right now. They cut the power right when Liz is in this elevator. So for all this episode, Liz is trapped in an elevator. So I thought that was quite interesting the way that worked. And it cuts to Red saying they're in. The mercenaries are starting to do their thing. Liz seems a bit confused in the elevator. The mercenaries are making their way through the parking lot now and are taking out the guards of the facility with ease so far. Ressler is going to take Red into the box. Harold is making a call for an evaluation from the building. Liz is tucked in the elevator still. She takes off her jacket and shoes. She begins to hit the top of the elevator with a shoe and escape the elevator. And Liz, just this whole episode, it was awesome with her. Harold, Malik, and Ressler, though, along with Red, are making their way to the box, and Red is telling them what Garrett wants to do with his mercenaries invading the facility, and Red says that Ressler would like to have him dead instead. Ressler says that he's got responsibility to protect Red's life, even though he'd like to take it. A mercenary opens the door and he shoots Ressler in the leg, and then Red hits the floor and gets the cuffs off him and takes a gun and bullets. So the rest of the episode, Red is basically tending to Ressler. Now, I kind of thought there was more to this. There was some sort of distraction. And, he takes the bullet. He drags Ressler across the floor. Liz is climbing out of the elevator. Red gets Ressler to open a door for him. And Red shoots the in-case of evacuation glass. Because then Ressler runs into the box for cover while Red is covering him. And then Red gets in while shooting a shotgun he obtained, and then the box is closed. Liz is making her way through the elevator. Ressler's in a lot of pain because of the wound in his leg. It's bleeding really, really bad. And definitely viewer discretion. This was definitely the reason why. A lot of goriness here, definitely. Red gets Ressler to lie on the bed, and now Red is going to treat his wounds. And then one of the mercenaries are talking about how he can find Red no matter where he goes, and how he's been working with the police. The mercenary continues to talk about how it's his day to kill Red, basically. So basically we find out that the whole point of shooting Ressler was a distraction for them to make a plan on how to kill Red. That's the whole thing here. Red at this point thinks that everyone's after his people when they're really after him, and they're just doing this as a distraction. So I thought that was definitely really cool the way that all worked. So then Harold and the FBI are getting prepared to deal with the mercenaries. Harold asks where's the best place for the mercenaries to hack them, and the bearded officer says the main generator room. It cuts to Liz, who's gotten out of the elevator shaft. She's found the dead officers. Liz picks up the radio, talks to Harold. Harold tells her to do nothing because of the people who've invaded the facility, and asks her if she's okay. And Liz says she's fine. It cuts to Red helping Ressler with his leg wound. Red tells Ressler to prepare himself because it's going to be very painful. Red takes a clip from the handgun in a tie and begins to tie it around his wound. Red tells Ressler to keep pressure on it. The mercenary tells that the only way to save Ressler's life is to come out of the box. And he says that Red didn't do that job in Brussels. He wouldn't be here right now. So the mercenary says that it's Red who can spare or end Ressler's life. And Red says that now he's looking at the man. He wonders why he hasn't gotten a plastic surgeon to fix his scar, and, but more importantly, the eye. Now, the reason that this mercenary is after Red is because they were they were partners before, and Red says that they never were, but Red says that he's done what he always does. He beats him, and the mercenary shoots the box, and it shots off the box, and it hits one of the soldiers behind him. The mercenary mentions that he's brought many people to this party, and sooner or later, Red will let him in. The mercenary has decided to try and blow up the box. Liz is walking through the facility with a handgun. She's clearly nervous about the situation. Harold and Malik are fighting a couple of mercenaries, while Bearded, our officer, is in the main generator room trying to get the power back on. The mercenaries have got Harold and Malik beat at the armory. Harold calls to warn the rest he's been caught, and a phone is on the table calling for help. One of the mercenaries fall for it. Liz comes up from behind with her handgun and a makeshift silencer on it she made using a water bottle. She tells the mercenary to not move. The mercenary doesn't listen and ends up getting shot. Bearded Cop has gotten surveillance around the facility by using his laptop. He sees both Malik and Harold being captured, and Liz takes the body armor the mercenary was using. The head honcho of the mercenaries makes this call to all the other mercenaries and tells them about the explosive that's going to go off at the box, and Red is still trying to save Ressler. He asks what blood type Ressler has. Red needs to give a blood transfusion to Ressler, and we basically find out that both Red and Ressler have the same blood type, which is actually a lucky coincidence because Ressler's surprised that Red is actually giving a blood transfusion because of how much he hates Red. And Red says that he knew about Brussels, and Red says that when someone is dying right in front of you, you have to save them. And I thought James Spader's performance in this whole scene was incredible. And then Red tells Ressler about how he saved a man once, and that man came to kill a month later, and then a month later after that, Red broke that man's neck. Red proceeds with giving, which I'm assuming was probably Anslo Garric's men, one of them. And the head honcho of the mercenaries asks if Red remembers the explosive. Red says yes, and asks if he's planning to blow up the box. The head mercenary wants Red to speak to him. Red isn't really saying much to him. The Bearded Cop is still working on his laptop and decides to take out his handgun to move out. And the mercenaries are picking up a whole lot of C4 to blow the box. One of them is interrupted because he heard something. The mercenary shoots a man who is already dead. Liz tells the mercenary to tell the head honcho them that nothing is wrong. He listens and does exactly that. And Liz hits him in the face. The Bearded Cop found Liz. He tells her that he's trying to recapture the telecom. Liz asks if he knows who's in the facility, and she wants to know how long it'll take to get the telecom back. He's not sure. Liz asks if the generators were disabled when it reset the telecom, and he says yes. So Liz says perfect and tells the Bearded Cop that they're going to go and basically disable the generators. So Red asks Ressler if he's feeling any weirder now. since the blood transfusion. Red asks if he can ask something. He asks about Audrey and what happened. Ressler tells him that Audrey left him because of him trying to chase after Red for 5 years. The mercenaries find the others were knocked out. He contacts the head honcho that there's something going around. Ressler asks about how Red knows his ex. Red says he knows a lot about him. And Ressler says that he doesn't know how Red abandoned his flag. Ressler goes more into depth about sailing the seas and mentions how he wants that one more time. And Ressler, everything he wants to do before he dies. And at the end he says most of all he wants to sleep like he did when he was a boy. And that's why Red doesn't want the mercenaries to get the best of him, nor the last of him. Because, he wants to get sleep like that as well. And then comes the very big ending. Harold arrives at the head honcho of the mercenary. He wants to get the box open, but Harold wants people to be safe. The head honcho doesn't want to do that. He wants to get in the box and believes he can get someone else to do it. Harold says he can do it if he bets on it. Red then says it would be stupid for the head honcho to shoot Harold. That means nothing to him, but Harold is the only man who can give Red's head to him. Ressler isn't doing well to the box. The wound is starting to become fatal. The head honcho asks Red how many people are going to die. Red is starting to try and help Ressler. Now he's going to close the wound in his leg, and if Ressler doesn't tell them how to open the box. And Red is going to try and do this as quick as he can, but Ressler still needs to stay the entire time. And Liz and the bearded cop are making their way to the generator to scramble those devices to reset the telecom. And Red is still working on Ressler's wound. This looks like a very painful process. Red burns the wound and it looks like he was successful. The head honcho decides to shoot and kill Luli in front of Red, and Red does not look pleased at all. Red turns away and looks at Ressler. Liz is interrupted by the mercenary she knocked out earlier the time he knocks her out. The honcho now has Demby on his legs and a gun pointed at his head. Red looks at Harold and tells him to say the code. Red is trying to get Ressler to say the code. Demby says that the friendship forged in this life will be in the next. And Red asks Harold to open the box that he would give anything. Red begins to tell Demby something in another language, then a gunshot is heard and it goes to black. That's how the episode ended. And so basically, who got shot? What's going to happen here? My real question is, who is this guy really after? And why? And this Anslo Garric guy definitely seems like a guy who Red is not going to be able to fight on his own. Definitely Red is going to need some type of a rescue mission here. That's definitely what I think is going to happen. I don't know if we really got to see Anslo Garric. I'm assuming that the head honcho is Anslo Garric. That's what I'm assuming. But we'll have to see. Why is he really after Red? What's the whole point of that? Who is he going to shot? Do you think he just did that to Ressler to distract Red? What's he going to do to Red? How is he going to kill Red? How are people going to save Red? Because we know Red's not going to die. And, do you think Liz is going to be the one to save him? I think that's what's probably going to happen, but that's it for my review. I hope you enjoyed it. It was just such an intense episode. I think James Spader gave a great performance this episode. He definitely deserves an Emmy for this episode. Definitely. He did such a great job. And also, how does Red know all this information about Ressler? Why do you think he knows all this information about him? And why did Ressler and Red, why are they kind of just at odds with each other? What do you think that whole thing is? That's it for my review. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Okay, bye. Oh, also, I liked how this one, we didn't really get a lot of questions as to, the main storyline. It really focused on the Ressler-Red friend relationship and all that. I like that. So, I'll see you guys in the next video. Okay, bye.